Because it's cliche doesn't mean that it's not absolutely true. And that is when you find yourself losing by a large margin in a game and you're getting frustrated and you're getting embarrassed and you want to just give up. The very best thing you can do is the opposite of that, which is to fight, to hustle, to play absolutely as hard as you can. The reason I make that example is because that exemplifies what I want to talk about, which is frustration and embarrassment. You're playing as well as you can, and they're not playing well, and you're still losing by a lot, which that specific situation, that worst case scenario, that's probably the best recipe for you to experience frustration and embarrassment. One of the worst things you can do in basketball, but also in life, is to run away and try to avoid those negative feelings. If you want to deal with them, if you want to handle them, if you want to ultimately conquer them, that in the future they affect you less and less and less until they just don't affect you pretty much at all anymore. The way to accomplish that is to go through those feelings, experience those feelings, not run away from them, not try to avoid them. There's two things I want you guys to keep in mind when it comes to that frustration and that embarrassment. Also, the second indicator for what frustration and embarrassment mean is that you're embarrassed and you're frustrated because you're making mistakes. Now, you could say you're not really making mistakes, but because you're newer and you're younger, playing against older, better competition, it's the fact that they're better than you is the reason why you're losing. So the mistakes that you're making, the mistakes that they are exploiting in you, which causes that embarrassment and that frustration, are also direct indicators of mistakes that you're making, which means the more mistakes you're making, the more frustrated and embarrassed you're going to get, meaning the more improvement you have and will make. Yes, but that is actually, as a newer, younger player, that's the point. Expose your mistakes so that you can learn from them. Yes, there will be embarrassment from all of that exposure, all of those weaknesses and mistakes, but when you ask pretty much most player who has a ton of experience out here, and you ask them what's most memorable to you in terms of basketball, they will usually always tell you about the failures they had, the mistakes that they made. Because when things go well and you play well out here and you do good things, it feels great in the moment when it's happening, but it doesn't stick. It doesn't resonate because the failures, the weaknesses, the mistakes, the obstacles you have to overcome, that once you eventually do overcome them, that's the stuff that sticks. That's the stuff that resonates. So usually the mistakes and the weaknesses that get exposed are the stuff that you remember most, the most vividly, that are the clearest in your mind, because eventually you will put in the work to earn overcoming them. So instead of running away from the embarrassment, instead of running away from the frustration, just push through, fight through those emotions so you can expose yourself, your weaknesses, your failures, your mistakes as much as possible so that you can learn as much as possible.